Welcome to Keen on Retirement, a show dedicated to helping you thrive before and during your retirement years. If you are looking to grow and protect your wealth and want to make the second half of your life the best half, then listen in as Wealth Advisor Bill Keen sorts through the key issues that you need to know in a lively and candid way.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Keen on Retirement. I'm your co-host, Steve, and Bill, Matt. Great to see you guys as always.
Great to see you, Steve. How have you been this wintry season?
Good. Well, out here in Oregon, we've actually had, I know not other parts of the country aren't like this, but we've had sunny and mild temperatures, although it's cold here today. But yeah, we've had I would say a little unseasonably warmer and sunny here than usual. In fact, a little concerned that there's not enough rain and snowpack in the mountains that we might normally have this time of year. But yeah, so just sort of good news, bad news, but definitely enjoying the sunny weather, which is not common here in the wintertime in Oregon.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, he's rubbing it in on us, isn't he, Matt? Because here about a week ago or so, we got hit pretty hard. I mean, I think a lot of folks probably in the U.S. got hit pretty hard with that storm that moved through. So kids got out of school one of the days and it was pretty frigid. So
I know.
Rub it in, Steve.
And what was it, like 14,000 flights got canceled? And
yeah,
that was kind of a mess there. But but we've got some good things to talk about today. We're going to give an update on the One Big Beautiful Bill and what the impact of that is here for 2026 now that we are in the new year. But before we do that, Bill, I know you took a trip to Australia. So tell us a little bit about your trip to Australia.
Oh, yeah. So, and I was just, in fact, rubbing it in from over in Australia to Matt and the team back here a few weeks ago about the weather.
Because it's summer there, right? It's summer there.
It's right in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so Carissa and I and several of our family members went over, took the trip, went down to Dallas, and then picked up a American Airlines flight over to Brisbane. And Brisbane, Australia is in Queensland, the state of Queensland in Australia. That was a 16-hour nonstop flight, Steve, over there. So had to get my mind around that and did a little sleeping on the flight out, which was fine. We left about 9 p.m. So my clock was set to sleep overnight, which worked well.
And that's the next day over there too, right?
So by the time
normal
all that
time,
by the time all that travel occurred, we left, I think, on a Wednesday, and we got there Friday morning at 6 a.m. So we kind of lost a day. We left on Wednesday night and got there Friday morning, I believe. Is how
I think Australia is like 19 hours, at least here on the West Coast. I know Sydney, Australia, I think is 19 hours ahead of West Coast time, Pacific time.
It seems like, so it was 16. It is 16 hours ahead of Central Time here in the U.S.
Okay. Yeah.
Is what it is. So, yeah. So just completely throws you off, off the clock. But Carissa has a sister in Australia. Her sister spent her first 3 years of her life here in the U.S., and she moved to Australia at 3 years old. So thank goodness, a lot of this too talks about, our relationships and experiences. We've kind of melded two of those most important things that we talk about, things that we are important to us and being intentional with our lives. We've melded two of those things together in this kind of story I'm telling, because Carissa and her sister Allie, and who is an attorney in Brisbane there, and her husband Matt, who's a very, very prominent businessman in electrical contracting there, done some very large projects there in Brisbane and around, and their kids, Georgie and Owen, who also were hosts, gracious hosts for us. But they have made it a point to stay very close, which I really admire, even though we're literally across the world from one another. But we took the trip. They were our gracious hosts. We landed in there. They met us at the Brisbane airport, and we were still we've been traveling a long time. And the first place we went was to their house. They welcomed us at their house because we actually stayed at a hotel there in Brisbane before we made our way to the Gold Coast for part of the trip as well, which was about uh, 80 kilometers, 80 kilometers from, I believe, something like that, from Brisbane. But we got there. We were very warmly welcomed. And Steve, one of the first things they did was throw me their car keys and said, "Hey, you can borrow our car for the duration of the trip." And I said to them, "Oh no, Matt, Allie, I'm good. I won't be driving here in Australia. We'll work it out some other way." And they said, "Oh no, with the itinerary we have, you have to drive." Now, do you know why this is a potential issue for me, Steve?
They drive on the other side of the road.
Yeah, notice that you didn't say the wrong side.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Because who says what's right or wrong, right? It's all perspective.
That's
But
right.
that is correct. So the steering wheel is on the right side of the vehicle, and you drive on the left side of the road. So, boy, after 30 hours of travel, approximately all in, I was now behind the wheel and pretty nervous. Honestly, I was
Was it
about
an
as nervous.
automatic? You didn't have to shift, did you?
It was an automatic. It was, yes. Although I used the windshield wipers quite often that I thought were the blinkers, because that's on the opposite side as well. But the anxiety was almost like my first solo flight in the airplane, because I'm going,
Sure.
whoa, wait a second, I've got to focus here now, because everything I intuitively wanted to do was opposite. So that was pretty darn interesting. But
So now, could you make a left-hand turn without at a red light there?
that is a
like
great
here you
question.
can make a right-hand turn with a red light here, or
Yes, that is a great question. That's one of the first things that Matt told me was you cannot do that. There is
cannot do that.
no turning on red lights.
That's
Okay.
probably better. Yeah.
No turning
Okay.
on reds. And also they're really strict on mobile phone usage, which they should be, right? We all should be while you're driving. In fact, we had a guest on the podcast here a couple years ago, Stephanie, who was sharing about an issue where she was able to go to Jeff City and get it was actually her name, the hands-free law passed in Missouri, where you really can't touch your phone. You're not supposed to while you're driving. But in Australia, they have cameras everywhere at a lot of the stoplights and overpasses. And if you're seen even touching your phone, if it's even in your lap, that can be a violation. And you receive a $1,250 fine in the mail if they get that of you.
Wow.
And you get 4 demerit points, which I wasn't sure what that means, but I didn't know. I think it was Allie's car. I think she might have got the demerit points in the mail, and I didn't want her to have to deal with demerit points. So, not that I touch my phone a lot ever anyway, but sometimes for navigation. So you should have seen Carissa, and Carissa was my navigator. And I just left my phone. Boom! I didn't even want to test that. So it was interesting. But I did want to say, on here, I know that they listen to our program. So Matt, Allie, Georgie, Owen, thank you so much for being such gracious hosts. They literally took their holiday. They were on holiday, which is also something that they say. We say vacation. They were on holiday for several weeks. They spent their whole holiday just really creating an itinerary for us, which was just amazing. We also got to meet Di and Russell, Matt's parents, and Marilyn, Allie's mom, and we had several other of our family members there too. Brandon and Braden, which is a brother and a nephew. So thank you though so much. I know you'll listen in. Thank you so much for being such gracious hosts, spending your whole holiday with us. You all. So I think it was just incredible. I was just overwhelmed by their support and being so welcome. And just imagine going to a place like Australia where you're not from, you have no idea what's going on there. If you had people that lived there their whole lives showing you the cool places, how wonderful is that, Steve? Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Now, did you pick up the language? So you mentioned holiday versus vacation. So what are some other words that they say in Australia that might be a little different than what we say here in the U.S.?
Good day, mate.
Good day.
Good day, mate. I think I'm getting it. Good day, mate. All right. So that's the first one. We don't say, hey, brother. Hey, dude. It's mate. It's mate. It's pretty cool. Mate. And I was starting to pick that up while I was there. I was trying to pick up a lot of things while I was there, but yeah.
Now, could a mate be male or female, or?
Yeah, I heard Matt speaking that way to. Sometimes he would say it to Carissa or even his daughter, even Georgie or Owen. He would say mate to them, just kind of in a certain context,
Right.
which was pretty cool. But we got to go to Steve Irwin's zoo. Remember Steve Irwin?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, we went to the Australian zoo one day. They only let 8,000 people in per day, and I believe the day we there it was full. So we got there and had an incredible time. We actually got to see his daughter Bindi. I think.
Bindi. Yeah.
Yeah, she's won Dancing with the Stars here in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
And then so Bindi did the croc show in the Crocoseum. We got to see her personally do the crocodile
wow.
show.
Uh-huh.
And Robert wasn't there. Robert's the son, who was also won Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, he was just on the last season, I think, of Dancing with the Stars. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing again, teasing out themes that we talk about here on our program that relate to like this story. I'm always thinking about these things. We talk sometimes about legacy, about how we want to be remembered and the impact we want to have on those we care about and the things that we're passionate about. Steve Irwin died 19 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that something? The accident that happened there was 19 years ago, and my daughter Emma, who's 17. He was gone before she was alive, but oh yeah, she knows all about Steve Irwin. So what a cool tribute to him that his family has kept that going. He was really truly a national hero there in Australia. So that was pretty cool. I did learn that there are more kangaroos in Australia than people. Sometimes we think that might be the case about deer around here in our part of the neck of the woods, Matt. I don't think it is, but there are close to between 35 and 50 million kangaroos in Australia, and they are running around too. So we were having lunch one day. We took a boat somewhere and we're having lunch at kind of an islandy type feel place. And I looked over and saw a about 5 foot, what I would look like a lizard or something, like the little ones you see if you go down to Scottsdale or something. But this was about 4 to 5 feet long. So I was a little concerned about that. And there was wild kangaroos. One kangaroo went over and was trying to get the ping pong ball from some young kids that were playing ping pong. So a little just different, kind of getting a sense for some of this stuff and experiencing their life. It's pretty cool. Now, the exchange rate, if you're interested to know, I was happy to know this. I didn't study it before I left, but I put it's like $100 on my credit card, and only $66 US dollars came out. So the US dollar is very strong there, which is kind of cool, I guess,
Just
for us.
like the metric system. It's almost the exact same ratio.
Yes, that was. And, I pulled it up for our program today, and today it says it's 0.69. So it looks like it's strengthened just a touch since I was there.
Yeah, dollar's down today as we're talking, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I thought you might be interested to know as well, in Australia, they have something called an age pension for people that don't have a whole lot saved. And once you earn a certain amount of money or have a certain amount of assets. So, Matt, this was interesting to see. There was a time where, and who knows, maybe this still happens here, where they start looking at net worth, not just income, for certain subsidies we might receive in the U.S. In Australia, they do look at net worth. They have a way of evaluating what a net worth is and an income, and then determining if someone qualifies for what they call an age pension, which is kind of like our Social Security system.
Sure.
And then they have something else called their superannuation, and they just refer to it as their super. It's their super. What are they doing with the super? And it's actual money. I think it's 12 or 13% that the companies are required to put in for each employee. And then they can choose where to invest it and how it's invested. And then at age 60, they can turn that into income for themselves that is tax-free at that time in retirement. So people get to control their supers as an investment. It's almost like a cross between our 401, almost like our 401ks, if that makes sense. So it was just interesting as I was there understanding the culture to understand about some of those things. So you asked me some words that they use.
Right.
And throughout the trip, I was taking them down in my mobile phone, and Matt asked me to review the list so I didn't get something wrong. So this has been formally reviewed. A ute is a utility vehicle. So instead of an SUV, it's a ute. When you're passing, you're overtaking someone. So the signs say no overtaking instead of no passing. When you're yielding, you're giving way. So give way, not yield.
See, now that's a nautical term. So when we're sailing, and you're thinking about, say, like two boats are crossing, or perhaps whatever, coming into potential conflict, you don't talk about the right of way. You talk about like,
Give way.
who's the give way and who's the stand on.
That's right.
Stand on and give way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
overtaking is a racing term, so yeah.
Oh yes. Well, I'll tell you what. I got so confident driving after day 3. I let my gracious host know that I had been overtaking some folks
Oh man.
on the highway. And remember, now there, the slow lane is the left lane, the passing lane is the right lane. So it took me a moment to get used to that. Petrol is gas. I think you probably knew that.
Uh-huh.
The trunk of the car is the boot. So if we're going to take a walk, we're going to say we're going to take a wander. So we took a nice wander through the Australian Zoo.
Mm.
We went to have a squiz while we were wandering through the zoo. Having a squiz means taking a look, but you don't want to be too nosy, because if you're nosy, you have a sticky beak.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to quickly roll through them here. This Arvo means this afternoon. A line is a queue. So there were times we were queuing. I queued for petrol at one point.
Right.
The elevators are lifts. So I did queue. I had to queue for a lift several times there at New Year's Eve at the nice place we were staying. Trash is rubbish. Sunglasses are called sunnies. So you don't want to forget your sunnies if you're headed out to the beach. And you also don't want to forget your tog, which is your swimsuit, or your kazi, which is a swimming costume. And if it gets cool enough at night, you want to make sure you bring your jumper along with you, which is a sweater or a pullover.
Hmm.
The tuck shop is a cafeteria. The fountain drink that you get at the end is called post mix. French fries are called chips. The bathroom's called the loo, and the trash cans you roll out to the edge of the corner every Friday morning here and where we live are called the wheelie bins. And finally, if you want to mail something, you're going to post it to them. And if you go down to the casino and you don't want to spend too much on the pokies, which are slot machines.
All right.
And I will tell you this, even though I have a tight diet most days, I did gain a couple kgs before I got back.
Man.
They say kgs, not lbs, like we say.
kgs. Very nice. So would you go back?
Yeah. So, seeing the city of Brisbane and then navigating to Gold Coast, which is more like imagine high rises on a beautiful beach, kind of like Miami, but with a family vibe. And then get to see the zoo and some of the other, we went for a bush walk and saw koalas and some of the nature. I definitely would go back, and I'm sure we will, because we have family there. We have family there. So, and there's so many other places too. Like right now, the Australian Open's going on up in Melbourne and the Great Barrier Reefs somewhere up there. And, there's a lot of places to still see there, but I would definitely go back.
So you didn't get to Sydney though, right? Or
we didn't get to Sydney, which is that where the Great Barrier Reef is? Is it off Sydney?
I don't think so. I don't think it's off of Sydney. I don't know Australia. I've never been to Australia, but I think Sydney is on the east side, I think, of Australia. And I want to say the Great Barrier Reef, I think, is on the west side, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, hey, still lots to see there. And it was really, really good. So thanks for letting me have some fun sharing it a little bit with you guys. Again, creating priceless experiences for the family and spending time with family across the world. Two of my takeaways from, spending, definitely worth the long haul flights for sure.
Excellent. Terrific. All right. Well, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the one big beautiful bill, man. I think
the
there's
US.
some changes.
Now we'll talk about the U.S. laws, Matt.
Yeah,
the U.S. Yeah. Now we're back to the U.S. here. So, what's happening with the bill here? What changes are we looking at for 2026?
Yeah, there's some things that began in 2026 that were passed as part of the passing of the new bill, OBBA, but it's one big beautiful bill. Act. So there's 3 B's, but a lot of times it's shortened to 2. I don't know. Sometimes Congress doesn't make sense with some of this stuff.
The one big bill
writes,
act.
Yeah. They took beautiful out of it, I guess. That was just additive. So,
yes.
But, one of the key things that they did was they made the changes that were passed in 2017 that were related to the marginal tax brackets, so the federal tax brackets, and that's the big one that most people are kind of keyed on that because that's what your income is taxed at that rate, at those federal rates. That was, those were reduced in 2017 with the passing of that act. That was set to sunset at the end of 2025. Well, they made those permanent, as meaning that it would now require future action from Congress to change them. So they're as permanent as Congress wants them to be permanent, but they aren't set to ever change unless they decide to change them. So that was the big thing, related to the passing of that bill. It didn't change the standard deduction that exists, that just for inflation and all that. That's all on the same path that it's been on. But they did, however, add a new bonus, I think they're calling it a senior bonus deduction. So this is for people that are over age 65. Now, this is, maybe slightly confusing. There are now 2 age 65 and older deductions. So there's one that's been around for quite some time, and that's still around. And that is for those that are 65 and older and claiming the standard deduction. So if you're, it's basically an enhanced standard deduction for those that are 65 and older.
Right.
And it's, let's see, the amount for 2026 is $1,650 if you're married filing jointly per spouse that is over 65. If you're single, it's $2,050.
And that's a deduction. It's an extra deduction.
Yeah. And it's really only if you're claiming the standard. So if you itemize, that does not, you don't get it. So again, that's where it gets kind of confusing. But they added this, and this is this senior bonus deduction. This applies whether you itemize or not. And it is $6,000 per person that is over the age of 65. So that's quite an additional deduction. However, it does have a phase out, and it starts to phase out if your income, they have this modified adjusted gross income where they add back in, tax-free interest, some other things like that. Over $150,000 if you're married, $75,000 if you're single. So you start to lose it, and then it's completely gone if that amounts over $250,000 for a married couple, $175,000 for a single filer. And this expires at the end of 2028. So basically in 2029, it doesn't exist anymore.
Which coincides with the next election cycle.
It's right. Yeah.
Yes. Now, Matt, this is kind of, they were talking about eliminating taxes on Social Security. And this is not necessarily specific to Social Security, but it did eliminate tax on Social Security for a lot of people.
I mean,
or are you even able to tie
I don't
together
even, I think they tried to do some, some mental gymnastics with that, but it's it's at age 65. It has nothing to do with Social Security.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you don't have to be on Social Security to get it. So it really has no relevancy.
Gotcha.
They
heard
just wanted to basically kind of say, well, we knew we really couldn't get no tax on Social Security, but we told you we were going to try.
Right.
So, because you could say that about anything. That's a tax deduction. Like, look, it reduced your Social Security tax. Well, maybe not.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. And it phases out if you make over these numbers you just said.
It phases, so the key thing is, and this is, we look at this a lot, especially in our tax planning every year, because we have very, very sophisticated modeling tools that now have incorporated all of these tax law changes, and did so as soon as they were passed. And so we can look at, okay, if we're looking at different tax strategies, such as Roth conversions or, realizing capital gains, things like that, we're looking at now the impact that has on this bonus deduction, because we can do the math and say, okay, you get this deduction if we don't do this. If we, if we do this, this is how much additional tax it really triggers, because that deduction now exists. So it's, something to be aware of. And I think it's hard for individuals, like without these modeling tools, to really kind of make all those different analysis, because of these phase out ranges and the different types of income that get added in. I mean, it's not simple. And again, you have to make so many of these decisions in the tax year. It's not like right now we're beginning the very first kind of stages of tax filing season. 1099s are coming out. A lot of the ones for your earned income, W-2s, things like that, those are available for people. 1099s for retirement accounts are typically available. May not have those available to you for your, taxable accounts just yet, but, people are starting to get aware of it. And if you do the taxes yourself, maybe you could, run some different scenarios and say, well, if I didn't do this, or if I did do that, but that's all based on last year. You can't really change it.
Right.
So now you got to kind of look ahead for this year if you're doing that yourself. So something to, to definitely be aware of.
But how, Matt, if somebody was trying to do this on their own, just inputting things into some software package that they might use to file TurboTax or whatever it might be, it would be pretty hard to, one by one, pull this, add that, pull this, put that, take, you know what I mean?
Know which ones to really even, what levers to pull.
Yes.
Because you don't know what impacts what, because some of them are triggered by investment income versus earning. It's just so, again, it's like having a, an expertise in this, of course, gives us that knowledge, but we don't expect our clients to be experts on this type of stuff.
That's right. And I will tell you this, that the CPAs that we interact with for a good portion of our clients are pretty grateful that we've done this proactive work when we're working together with them to run these strategies by all as a group. Like, we quarterback the financial team for a client, and they can see that we've done this proactive work. It's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, we actually get a lot of introductions from CPAs from their clients to us, because they don't have to do that work, and they're not really being hired to do the proactive work either. They're actually just hired to report the history of it and get the return filed accurately.
That's right. One of the things too, for those that are still working, they have this catch-up contribution that's, it's been around for many years. But what they changed, and this is a new, component to this, in starting in 2026, is that if your earned income, so they call it your FICA wages. So if you look at your W-2 from last year, once you receive that, and if the amount is over $150,000, and this doesn't matter if you're married or not, this is at the individual level, your catch-up will have to go into the Roth 401k.
Now, you're talking about a catch-up for their 401ks, for people that are putting money in a 401k. And when you said catch-up, it reminded me of tomato sauce in Australia. That's what it's called, tomato sauce. You eat with your chips. But anyway, you're talking about a 401k contribution. If you're over a certain
over age 50,
you can put more in. Now it has to be in a Roth if you make over this amount of money.
Yeah, and they will do that for you. It'll be forced into it. You don't have a choice. And the only thing that you'll notice if you're paying this close of attention is once you get to that piece of it, because when you're putting contributions into your 401k, you're starting with the regular contributions first. The standard, what everyone puts in, and you could designate that, pre-tax or Roth, however you're designating it. But then the catch-up is the additional amount they allow you to put in once you're over age 50. And that's the last piece that goes in. So you won't see this until you get to that point. If, you're subject to it, it's forced into the Roth, which means you're paying taxes on those contributions. That's where you'll see that. And again, it's just going to be on those dollars out of your paychecks. You may not even notice it, but it's something to be aware of. they'll have all the accounting for it within those retirement plans. They're required to. So, they segregate those funds in Roth. And so when you do separate service, retire, or, leave the company, then that money's treated differently than the pre-tax money, things like that. So
at least it's not taxed ever again, right?
That's unless Congress changes the rules. That is the case. Correct.
And a tip I've heard you share with folks too on the program over the years is that catch up. Don't just assume that you've signed up for your catch up. If you think you've maxed your 401k, there's typically an extra box to check or confirm that you actually are signed up for the catch up provision.
In many employer plans that we've reviewed, you have to specifically sign up for it, not just because let's just say, if you make $150,000, you're part of this, and you say, okay, I'm going to put in 25% of my paycheck, so you're going to max it out. Well, that if you didn't designate the catch-up contribution, they may stop it once you maximize the standard contribution. So
yes,
just be aware of that. Another key. Now, this is for the folks that now are on health insurance. They're paying for health insurance on the healthcare exchanges. So for a lot of people that we work with, that is typically they've retired prior to Medicare, but some people are still working and they don't have a health insurance plan, so they're on the exchanges. So it'll apply to anyone who's got health insurance on the exchanges. At the end of 2025, they ended the enhanced subsidies.
Was that COVID era subsidies, Matt, basically?
Yeah, they were kind of tied to that. So it's going back to the way it used to work. So it's not necessarily this is something that was taken away. It was just during COVID and I'm not quite sure the timing of it, but they enhanced it to where you're not subject to like this federal poverty level to be eligible for these subsidies. They just basically had a percentage of your income that allowed you to get a subsidy, and if your income was over a certain dollar amount, then you wouldn't get it, but it just was a sliding scale. Now it's a cliff. So again, this is for people that are on the Affordable Care Act and on healthcare.gov getting their health insurance. If you were getting a subsidy, you may not anymore because of this now cliff. If you're 400% is where the cliff starts of the federal poverty line, and if you're 401%, so you're 1% over it, you get zero. So, and that could be. We were in a meeting just a few weeks ago, kind of looking at this for a client, and they're under it, but they're close, and we were doing the analysis. $1,500 a month difference for just being
subsidy
$1 over. Yeah.
Wow. So if you're in a position to be able to control what you're showing on your tax return, it's really important to know this. And you can confirm if I'm correct on this too, Matt, but I know you have to be aware of what your state's poverty level is as well, because we were looking at one in Alaska, and the poverty level in Alaska was different than other states. So I'm assuming each state has its own.
Oh, so they're using the federal poverty line.
Okay.
So it's less state specific. There might have some additional things at the state level that could apply because each state can do some things, but it's $84,600 for a couple, $63,000 for a single. Now, again, this is based on how many people you're applying for. So if you have a family, you have multiple, then the subsidy is going to be different. The thresholds are going to be based on the number of people on that health insurance plan.
Yes.
Yeah. But Social Security counts towards it again. There's calculators online, but if you were getting a subsidy, definitely double check where you're at on that, because you don't want to be hit with a big surprise. Because a lot of times this is found out if you were unaware of this when you file your taxes. And
too late.
You got to pay it all back, and it can be a very, very expensive situation for you. I would say another, we talked about deductions, standard deduction. Well, itemized deductions, those are certain expenses. If there's enough of them that are more than the standard, then you're able to itemize. And the big ones are, charitable contributions, mortgage interest, your health care to an extent, because there's a pretty big threshold for health care to be able to be deducted, but that's another one. And then state and local taxes. And part of the passing of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, prior to that, all state and local taxes were added they counted towards itemized deduction, no matter what you paid at the state and local level. So for people in high tax states or high income earners that pay just a lot in state and local taxes, that would help reduce their federal tax bill. Well, in 2017, when they passed that, they capped state and local taxes to $10,000.
$10,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of, again, people that were using that as an itemized deduction, well, now they got $10,000 and that's it. Now they've raised it to $40,000. Now it's $40,400 for 2026. This one has a few things related to it, though. There is a phase out. So if your income over $500,000, start to phase it out back to that $10,000 threshold. And 2, this one expires at the end of 2029. So different than the other one. you got an extra year on this one.
Okay.
So again, take, kind of take all these things together and kind of look at it. State tax exemption increased, 15 million per person, 30 million for a joint filer. Most people aren't subject to this, but if your estate, so that when you pass away, they add up all your assets, and if it's below these thresholds, you don't have to worry about anything. But if it's over that, if you're, depending on you're married or not, if it's 15 million, if you're single and you have 30 million, well, you have half of it you have to pay estate tax on, which is 40% plus anything at the state level. So wherever you live, some states have one, some states don't. It's different for a lot of the states. So you have to be aware of that. But that's how much would be subject to the tax that your heirs would have to pay. So most people, I think, that do have this problem generally are aware of it, but they do keep increasing it. There's always this threat that's going to go away. So far, it's never gone away, that they're all of a sudden make all estates taxable or make the threshold very low. Because I don't think that's a big income source for the government. So it gets a lot of attention because they kind of want to talk about, taxing the wealthy, but it really doesn't move the needle when it comes to budgeting, because Congress has to, when they pass these bills, they have to, balance the budget, which of course we know is a fallacy that it never happens, but they have to pay for all these things. So that's supposedly, one of the things that's always on their radar.
When I got in the industry, and Steve, you'll remember this too, each person could, here today, it's $15 million of assets you can pass either while you're living or once you're gone without estate tax. When I got in the industry, it was $600,000 per person. So 1.2 million for a couple. So a lot of people, and you might say, well, I've been in the business so long that was normal. Well, it has been a long time, 34 years, but there was a lot of people that this was hitting. If it was a $1.2 million and then anything over that, you're paying upwards of 50% in estate tax. Interesting.
Yeah, even for people that have 15 million or 30 million, if they have more than that, a lot of them still aren't paying the estate tax because there's various things that they can do to get money out of their estate, whether it's charitable things,
right.
Can get that out of your estate, and various different trusts, that you can set up and so on and so forth. So yeah,
that's right.
For wealthy folks like that, there are definitely some tools and levers that can be used.
Yeah, there's a lot of solutions. If you plan correctly.
Exactly.
We hear about the people who pass away that are famous that don't have estate plans, and they end up, their heirs, beneficiaries pay a lot of tax because they didn't do any proper planning. So, and I would say there is a plan for you. You're just not going to like it. It's the one that the government decided.
It's been determined for you.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the last big thing, these started in 2025, the Trump accounts for newborns. So they're retirement style accounts, $1,000 federal contribution for kids born between 2025 and 2028. And it's well intended, probably not necessarily gonna be a huge thing, but it's something that's better than nothing, I guess. We'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess, Bill, you've had a new grandchild, a couple of them. Have you heard anything? Have they got their Trump accounts?
You would think that they would have let me know, because I'm very fortunate that I'm very close with all my kids, talk a lot, 5 grandkids now and they're all local here in Kansas City, but I haven't heard one of them bring up.
They get a letter. I don't know how any of this.
I think they're waiting for Grandpa to fund their Trump accounts.
Well, he's funding their 529s, and there is some annual gifting happening.
Sure. I want to hear about their money from Uncle Trump.
I do need 2 Social Security numbers still from 2 of the newest grandbabies, but we'll get those established here and move on from there. So
yeah. Well, we've even had, talk about ways to, if you're super wealthy, to avoid the estate tax. So Michael Dell, since we're talking about the Trump accounts here, I think he announced some time ago that he and his wife are giving away, I don't know how many billions of dollars to fund Trump-like accounts. But I guess, isn't it for people that are not the newborns, but people that wouldn't qualify for the Trump accounts? They're going to fund a similar thing for those who have older children, I guess. Is something like that. I didn't get all the details.
Yeah, I remember reading about that as well. Yeah, kind of supplementing
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a way to give your money away and get it out of your estate as well.
Option. That's right.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Good. All right. Yeah. So a few things to definitely be thinking about here as it relates to 2026. But of course, we're early into 2026 at this point, but I don't think it's ever too early to be thinking about your tax planning and tax strategies. And of course, we've got April 15th coming up here. So there's definitely things that we can think about here prior to tax day. And I'm sure we'll be doing an episode or two on taxes again as we get closer to April 15th, and what we should be thinking about and talking about, and what actions we might want to take with that as well. And, said old saying, we don't like paying taxes, and we just want to make sure that you pay what you're legally obligated to pay, but not more, unless you want to count the federal government as part of your charity beyond the taxes that are due. So it's up to you.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. Any final thought, Matt, Bill? What do you think?
Well, no, I think we had a great episode today. It's this time of year. We always like to come out with anything that's kind of new and on the cutting edge when it comes to these tax rules, regulations, things that we're looking out we're adjusting our checklists every year to go with what the newest rules are, and then applying that across the board to all the people that we have the privilege of serving in our firm at Keen Wealth, and just wanting to bring that information here to a platform that we have some great coverage here on the actual podcast, and now the YouTube channel where folks can plug in and listen to what we're seeing behind the curtain. So, and also appreciated you let me share in a little bit on my personal trip. We get some feedback where some folks say that they like hearing about what we have going on. I hope others don't get irritated and say, just get on with the dollar
fast
signs
forward
decimal point. Yeah, there's always that fast forward feature. But anyway, we sure appreciate the audience that we have here after solid 10 years plus of producing the show, and always look forward to it. Always look forward to our banter that we have here, and getting to bring what we're seeing in our firm to this medium. So appreciate it very much.
All right. Well, Bill and Matt, as always, thank you. And if you would like to learn more about Keen Wealth Advisors, please visit us at keenwealthadvisors.com. And as Bill mentioned, we've got the YouTube channel as well. So please make sure that you subscribe to that. Or if you just like the audio, you can subscribe to the podcast, and please tell all your friends and colleagues about what we're doing here, because we want to continue to share this with as many people as possible, because education and financial literacy is certainly part of what we're trying to do here at Keen Wealth Advisors. So thank you all, and we'll catch you all on the next episode of Keen on Retirement.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Steve.
The Steve Sandusky Advisor Network and Belay Advisor are not affiliated with Keen Wealth Advisors. Opinions expressed by Steve are his own and not necessarily the opinions of Keen Wealth Advisors. Keen Wealth Advisors is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Keen Wealth Advisors and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. The contents of this podcast are intended for the residents of the United States of America. No advice may be rendered by Keen Wealth Advisors unless a client service agreement is in place. This program is intended for informational purposes only and should not be construed as advice on or a recommendation of any particular investment, strategy, or as tax or legal advice for your specific situation. Keen Wealth Advisors is not a tax or legal advisor. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your licensed professional prior to investing. Information in this program was compiled from sources believed to be reliable. Due to the constant state of data changing, we do not guarantee the timeliness or the accuracy of the information provided. Our views or opinions at the time you are listening to the podcast may be different than they were when the podcast was recorded. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Any indices referenced for comparison are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. Any prices that are referenced or market forecasts are as of the date stated and are not necessarily our opinions moving forward. As always, please remember, investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. This podcast is not allowed to be copied, distributed, published, or reproduced without permission from Keen Wealth Advisors.